that you have these two kids who are stealing a car. It's probably a situation where they stole like a parent's truck or something, but then they go and stab a police officer. Like, holy shit! Like, you kids are in bigger trouble than you think. I mean, I'm not the type who's necessarily 100% against police or anything like that. I've got police officers in my family. I think I've said that on the show before. I think that the policing, particularly in the United States, but certainly here as well, you can do a whole lot better in terms of how we train our police officers, in terms of the types of behavior that we find are acceptable from our police officers. I mean that as a society, and I also mean that in terms of how these folks are trained and what type of culture is actually surrounding the police. But holy shit, to get stabbed before the sun is even fucking up. That's not a job I would want to take on. I'll tell you that right now. I'm glad that the officer's doing okay. I'm glad these kids are in custody. I can't imagine being like, when I was 15, like, I don't want to get into this, like, all these kids today or anything like that, but when I was 15, like, shit, I was not running into situations where I would have to stab a cop, where I felt that stabbing a cop was the right thing to do. Just absolutely ludicrous. So, there's a lot of information. Of course, these are young offenders, so a lot of information is sort of protected. The officer is typically in charge of putting this sort of information out to the news. Of course, can't give out information about the hometown of the suspects, whether or not they knew each other, or whether they'd had any previous dealings with the police. I'm gonna have to say that, like, probably yes on all accounts. Well, yes to the hometown doesn't make much sense, but they're probably from the same place. They probably knew each other, and they're probably pretty well known to the police. If their first instinct is to stab a police officer, I mean, I was talking to a friend of the show and famed guest Luke Hardiman this past week. I think actually on the day in question that evening, talking about this very incident, and he brought this up, like, if you ever played Grand Theft Auto, not to trivialize this, but you don't kill a cop unless you want to go on a chase that ends with you getting shot or brought into the police officer's station. You don't go on that. That's a minimum 2-star offense. You're probably going to get the 3rd, and that brings out the helicopters. And those sons of bitches are absolutely ridiculous to get rid of if you don't have a rocket launcher, which at 15, you better not have a rocket launcher. We went into a strange place with this story. We'll call it there. Just another situation where John lives in a strange neighborhood. Previously, actually, you know what? Before we go to the break, I will talk about, like, I pretty much every time that I've lived, anytime that I've lived in this city. Of course, I moved back home for a couple of years, but in the time that I've lived in this city, man, I've lived in some weird neighborhoods in terms of just weird shit going on. There was a just shortly, I used to live in the North End. Just shortly after I moved away from the North End, there was, like, a renowned crack house, which, like, I mean, I don't know what crack smells like, but I knew something was going on there when I would have to pass by that place in the summer when I was walking on my way to work. There was, like, a fucking murder that just happened, like three doors down, basically, from my old place. Then we have this situation with the fire, and of course this random stabbing. Like, it's just like, I don't know, man. It's kind of the thrill of living sort of on the, like, I don't live in a bad neighborhood. I've never have lived in a bad neighborhood, but I've lived, like, next door to the bad neighborhood, pretty much the entire time I've lived in Halifax, and always leads to some interesting stuff. There was like recently, so there's a bar that's across the street from my apartment. It's now a sports bar. It used to be like this sort of, like, weird, like, anachronistic, like, 1970s dive bar. You know what I mean? Like, they would be like, they'd sell food during the day, and it was just never any good, really. Like, in terms of, like, if you asked for something with vegetables, it was never fresh. It was definitely just, like, frozen mixed vegetables every single time. I remember this one time, like, I was in bed. I had to get up the next morning for, like, a 7:30 start, and I was going to be working, like, a 12-hour or longer day. And this particular night, there were just all of these cop cars that kept on streaming by my place and going into that parking lot across the street from my apartment. Now, of course, they would turn off the sirens once they got close to the place, but, like, on their way, it was siren, turn off. Siren, turn off. Siren, turn off. And like the lights are just going crazy. And it turns out like somebody had gotten shot in that bar. It's always an interesting situation living in some of these neighborhoods. So anyhow, on the other end of this, we're going to go into that sort of wrapping up the show stuff that I do. Just the last little bit of the show. Here we go. Right, so I actually didn't mention it in the show. I probably in that last segment I probably should. Well, I'll do it now because I'm trying this new thing called segueing in between segments. I don't know. I don't think any show's ever tried it before. Strange new programming ideas, I guess. I don't know. Anyhow, in one of the articles written in the Chronicle Herald, Halifax's local daily. One of the folks that's one of the witnesses or whatever that's quoted in the article is graphic artist to the stars and also this show, Skylar Greencorn. So go ahead and check that out, and of course check out Skylar. His information's in the credits as per usual. So. This is kind of the section of the show where I just I throw together things that I didn't talk about in the rest of the show that I wanted to talk about. Sometimes it's just a situation where I pull up my old news browser and I just find some interesting offbeat news that's interesting to me. New law: Kansas cops can't have sex during traffic stops. This is from the Wichita Eagle. A new Kansas law makes it a crime for any police to have sex with people that they pull over for traffic violations or detain in criminal investigations. New law bans sexual relations, quote, during the course of a traffic stop, custodial interrogation, an interview in connecting with an investigation, or while a law enforcement officer has such person detained. Now, much like myself, I was just like, oh, Kansas. You're just making this illegal now. How wasn't it illegal before? What are you doing? Oh, Kansas. Turns out that Kansas is one of 33 U.S. states where such a law doesn't exist on the books. And, this is just, completely legal stuff. Until now, of course. So Kansas is one of only 33 states where consensual sex between the police and the people in their custody wasn't considered to be a crime, which is crazy. So Governor Jeff Collier has signed the law, signed it into law this past Thursday. It was brought to the state legislature by Democrat Cindy Holscher. That is crazy to me. Actually, technically not illegal until very recently. It's still legal, apparently, in 32 states. Let's find out if I can figure out where those are. I'm just going to take a quick look. Well, yeah, surprisingly, it's not the sort of thing that's advertised. Let me see if it's further in this article. Doesn't seem to be. I guess they don't want to drag the other states, which, I mean, hey, fair enough. That's crazy. Oh my! All right, so before we get into the close of the show here, I will bring up one last little piece of offbeat news, which is absolutely lovely to me. Of course, red Solo cups, the ones. As a tie-in to the upcoming Han Solo movie in theaters very, very soon, they're actually bringing out Solo cups. So Han Solo branded red Solo cups, which just cheers me up to no end. So even a contest on the go, probably United States only, on the company's websites where entrants can win a Solo party pack, which includes a T-shirt, cups, movie tickets for your own Solobration. Han Solo cups makes me very, very happy to hear indeed. And you know what? I think that's just about it. Like I said, I came into this with basically 2 pieces of news that I wanted to talk about. And we got to our normal 1 hour mark. So that's exciting. We'll get into the normal credit sort of sequence here. What I will say is that, of course, if you want to have your name read out on the show as a supporter of the show, you absolutely can by going to johndulong.com. johndulong.com/Patreon. johndulangshow.com I don't own. Probably should think about picking that one up. johndulong.com/Patreon or patreon.com/johndulangshow. If you don't want to have your name written out on there, you just want to support the show, that's absolutely fine too. That's been the decision of one of our patrons as well. But if you want to help out the show, much like Will and Lucas over at ECL Pod, the Elwood City Limits podcast, you can go over, get yourself one of those reward tiers. So we'll go into the credits here because I can hear the jangly music coming. This show is produced by me with music from Won't Plays Here. You can check them out at loyaltyfreakmusic.com. Also art by Skylar Greencorn, who you can check out at artstation.com/sgreencorn. You can follow the show on facebook.com/The John Dulong Show. You can follow me on social media at Jibberdy, JIBERDY. Make sure that you email into the show, johndulangshow@gmail.com. Answer this week's prompt. What television show is in production right now that I need to be watching? What's your favorite? You can find the show in all the normal podcast places or by going to johndulong.com. And if you could, rate and review, as that helps get more folks listening to the show. If you want to help out and support the show, you can go to johndulong.com/Patreon, where you can get a number of great rewards, starting at just $1. Another great way you can help out the show is to tell a friend about the show. Get the word out. Of course, make sure that you tune in every single Monday for your weekly dose of the Monday morning nonsense. I think that's maybe the first time that I didn't fuck up the outro, guys. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. I'm proud of myself. Go me. Hear that? Can you hear that? Pat myself on the back. So anyhow, for John Dulong, I'm John Dulong, and remember, grocery store workers must let their customers decide if you want paper or plastic, because of course, beggars can't be choosers. Thanks. And hey, just while I still have your attention here, I'm not going to do the normal, quiet ASMR-y type outro here. I'm actually going to just talk about it. If you are a fan of The Simpsons, if you know The Simpsons, and I mean, particularly, whatever era of The Simpsons you're a big fan of, if you know the beats of that show and you super enjoy it, please get in touch with me, johndulangshow@gmail.com. There's a few of you out there that I know for sure are big Simpsons fans. There's a few of you that I know are out there, but if you're a fan of this show and you're a fan of The Simpsons, please let me know. Send me an email, johndulangshow@gmail.com. Throw Simpsons in the subject line, just so that I know. I've got some upcoming plans. I'm going to tent my fingers thusly, in a very Mr. Burns-esque way. Next week on the show, I don't know. I kind of ride by the seat of my pants here. I'm probably going to talk about the Premier League that was, because at that point, the Premier League will be over. At this point, I suppose, as you're listening to this, the Premier League is over. You know if Liverpool has made it to the top 4 or not. I don't. Lost against Chelsea last week, which was a bit of a heartbreaker. But I think we only need a draw on the last day in order to clinch top 4. I want that win though, because that would be just boss. I would absolutely love that, a win on the last day of the Premier League season. Yeah, that's it, I guess. Will Young, I kept the football talk to the very end of the episode because I love you, baby. You're a very good friend, and I love you. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna shout out Will's podcast, ECL. They're gonna start a new season of Arthur here this coming week, so make sure you check that out if you're not already listening. That's it for me. I will see you next week. Bye.